I mean, it's an amazing story, this whole Punjabi disco story. But it started last year when Raghav from Naya rang me and said, Kuljit, I've come across one of your mother's albums and I'd like to re-release it because I think it's amazing. And everyone I know thinks it's amazing. And I said, yeah, sure, which one is it? And he said, Punjabi Disco. And I thought, well, no one's ever mentioned that album at all because it sort of disappeared into the ether at that time, 1982. And I said, sure, you can re-release it. And we did a deal, no problem at all. And he said, also, I would also like to remix 3 of the songs. I said, well, we'll go ahead. And he said, no, but have you got, you must have the original tapes. And I said, well, I haven't. And he said, are you sure? Where did you record it? I said, well, I recorded it at Rick Kenton's studio, who used to play bass for Roxy Music. But I haven't got the tapes. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Now, as I was saying that, in the back of my mind, I had a little doubt because during the lockdown, the pandemic, one of the things that I did was I wanted to archive my whole tape stock. And I had about 200 reels of tape. So, and I did it. So, but I wasn't paying attention to which ones they were. I was just militant about getting them transferred onto the computer. So I thought, I said, Raghav, wait a minute, let me just have another look, a double check, and I'm just for my own sanity. So I opened my computer, went into the hard drive, and went through all those. There's like, as I say, 200 projects or something like that. And then I saw this folder and it said Punjabi Disco and my heart skipped a beat. So I opened it and, oh my God, it was there. And so I rang him. I said, Raghav, I've got the stems. And well, we call them stems, they're separate instruments. And he said, oh mate, that is incredible. And I said, you're not going to believe this, but another wonderful thing is that I've got a song that's unreleased. It didn't come on the album. It's unreleased. Now, he said, that's incredible. How did you find that? And I said, well, listen, I remember during lockdown, it was really difficult to do this process because tape, and let me just show you the actual original tape. So this is the original Punjabi Disco tape. And nowadays, all music's made on computers. But in those days, before computers were used for music, we used to record on tape. So this will be full of tape. In fact, this is the original Punjabi Disco tape. And this spool of tape, this is called 1-inch tape. And it's because the tape's 1 inch wide. And it fits on a particular machine. So now the machine, when I was doing this during lockdown, I don't have this machine. I've got a machine that can take this tape. Now that's 2 inches wide. And you can't put this on that machine. It won't work because the heads don't line up. But I thought, let me just give it a go. So, and of course, the problem with it is there's many problems. First of all, because that machine's got a bigger magnetic head, the tape can ride up and down, and then that means all the instruments get unaligned. That's one problem. The biggest problem with tape is because it's like a ribbon. If you imagine like a plastic ribbon with iron filing stuck on it, there's a lubricant glue that's used. And if you're in the music industry, you will know this already. But tape, when it gets old, it gets stuck together because that lubricant goes off and it just turns into almost like a solid block. So you can't play it. You can't even, like this one here hasn't got that problem because it's loose and nice. But if it had that problem, you'd have to peel it off and it would all be stuck together. Now, there is, I have to thank my friend Stephen Cooper for this, but Steve said to me, there is a way of solving this problem, and one of the ways is to bake the tape. Now, only places like British Library would do something like that, and it was very, very expensive, like, I don't know, £80 an hour in those days, right? So there's no way I'm going to pay that. And Steve said to me, look, there is a, give it a try, but I've heard this idea that's come from America, and someone's done it before, and he said, buy a beef jerky machine. Now this, believe it or not, is a food drying machine. It's for beef jerky, and it's it's got a lid on it and everything, and what it does, it can keep the temperature steady at one particular temperature and it has to be like 51 degrees. Now, you can't bake tapes in a household oven because the temperature fluctuates. Plus, there's like fire in there, right? So you can't do that. But the idea, Steve said to me, he said, you've got to bake it overnight. Then, here's the problem. You've got one chance of playing it. And I said, what do you mean you've got one chance? He said, because once it's baked, the lubricant loosens up. But when you put it through the machine, it cools again, and then it cools harder than it was to start off with. So I said, look, I'm going to give it a go. So I baked Punjabi Disco. And now what's amazing about this is, I know it's designed for beef jerky, but look at this. So in my mind, that's designed for tape, not for beef jerky. That is a perfect fit. Not only that, you can stack them, so you can do 4 or 5 tapes at the same. So Punjabi Disco was 2 reels, and I put 2 reels in there, baked them overnight, put them on my machine, which was the wrong machine for that tape, and I pressed the play button. This is the remote for the machine. Right, play, and it played, and it struggled through, and I thought, let me just put the computer on, and I don't care what happens, I'm going to capture it. So I put the computer on, and what was playing went into the computer. The machine was jerking and struggling, and sometimes it was smooth. And it went through, and I thought, okay, let me try another take, like another take, another round of it, even though he said you've only got 1 pass. Let me try a second pass. The worst that can happen is I've got to bin the tape anyway, but let me give it another go. So rather than rewind the whole tape, which will take about, take a few minutes, I thought, let me just turn the spool over and put it through, and it'll go through backwards. But it doesn't matter that it's backwards, because in the computer, I can press a button and turn it around the other way. So I did that. It went through, struggled a little bit, but sometimes it was smooth. Turned it over, put it through, kept the computer recording, and I captured it all. And after that second pass, you just couldn't. The heads of them on the machine were all clogged up. There's all this gunk on the heads, because the lubricant comes out, and it's like licorice and sort of toffee, and it just ruins the machine. So I had to get rid of the tape, and that in itself was a challenge, because the tape wouldn't go through the machine. So I had to trick the tape into thinking that the tape was going through by sticking a bit of a blue tack on one of the levers. And then what I did is I got one of these hubs, and just took the top of it and just had the hub left, and let the tape wind on that, and then I stuck a pencil in the hub, so that later on, when it was complete, I could just ease it off and there was a gap, otherwise it would have been stuck on the hub. And so it was a really it was a sort of bittersweet moment, because it was like a bereavement, because this tape was going into the bin. So it was coming off the hub and going past the tricked tape machine straight into the bin. So it was a sad moment, but the good news was that I managed to capture the songs, and also I found a song that no one has ever heard, released at all. And so now Filp and Raghav are remixing 3 songs from the album. Those 3 songs, because the tape was struggling with the songs, there are some instruments missing at certain points, or it suddenly goes, it goes like that, or it slows down. And so Raghav rang me again and said, Kuljit, is it possible to fix that flute line, and can we fix that vibraphone line? And I said, yeah, I think I can do that. And he said, but how will you do it? Because you'll have to. I said, I've got the original keyboard that I've played on the album, and it's an SH1000 Roland. It's the very first synthesizer that Roland released. It's so vintage that you can only play 1 note at a time. You can't play a chord on it. You can't even play 2 notes. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I've got the original keyboard. Not only that, I've got the original drum machine, and also the drum bits that are missing, my brother can fix those and I can fix that. So that's what we're going to do now.